The human design system, the science of differentiation, is a new system of self-knowledge that differs fundamentally from anything else that exists in the world, because it is the only one designed to directly address the transformation of nine-centered human beings. 1781 marked a major evolutionary shift, which forever impacted humanity's direction, momentum, and innate capacity for self-awareness. It was the shift from the mind-directed and other-directed seven-centered human being to our more sophisticated, inner-directed, nine-centered transitional forms. All of us alive today inhabit nine-centered forms. The human design system synthesizes aspects of two types of science: the ancient observational systems of astrology, the Chinese I Ching, the Hindu Brahman chakras, and the Tree of Life from the Zohar Kabbalist tradition, and the contemporary disciplines of quantum mechanics, astronomy, genetics, and biochemistry. As a logical, empirical, and practical system, human design does not ask you to believe anything. It merely offers you the opportunity to explore and experiment with the mechanics of your nature and your evolving consciousness in order to find out for yourself exactly what works for you. Our universe began 13.7 billion years ago, following an astronomical event they called the Big Bang. The most extraordinary thing to ponder about this event is that before the Big Bang, everything that had mass existed in one single particle that was smaller than an atom. Something ignited this speck, and the resulting explosion caused the universe to begin to expand. As it expanded and continues to expand at an ever-increasing rate, everything that existed separated into two groups, creating a basic duality: quarks and leptons, or a yin family and a yang family. Yin family is fundamentally material, has mass, and is made up of 6 quarks. Quarks are the smallest known building blocks of matter and are usually found in combinations. Scientists gave them the names up, down, strange, charm, beauty, and truth. 2 of these 6 quarks, namely up and down, gather together into 2 groups, up, up, down, and down, down, up, and form what are called the proton and the neutron of the atom. Protons carry a positive electric charge, while neutrons are electrically neutral elementary particles. On the other side of the duality is the yang family, which is considered to be pure energy or light. This family is called leptons. Leptos is a Greek word meaning thin or small. There are 6 leptons as well, 3 different types of electrons, and 3 different types of neutrinos. Electrons are negatively charged particles. When an electron, a proton, and a neutron come together, they form the atom. Scientists say if we add everything together that we know is atomic, which is to say has mass, the stars, all the galaxies and superclusters and everything else including us, we will discover their sum represents less than 1/10 of the whole universe. The rest, or the space in between everything, is made up of such things as dark matter and dark energy. That brings us to the enigmatic neutrino. The neutrino, the first prediction fulfilled. During Ra's experience, he learned that neutrinos were capable of leaving an imprint, which meant that neutrinos were particles carrying mass. This had not been proven by science yet. At first, scientists thought these subatomic particles, neutrinos, streaming through space were pure energy like the photon, but since they travel 1 to 2% slower than the speed of light, they could not be pure energy. This first prediction was scientifically proven 11 years later. By 1998, scientists had proven that the largest of these unusual and barely detectable particles bear an infinitesimal amount of mass, about 1/1,000,000th the weight of one proton. Having mass allows neutrinos to carry information, yet they are small enough to pass through any atomic barrier without resistance. These tiny cosmic messengers are referred to as the breath of stars, the exhaled energy of stellar fusion, and there are more of them than anything else in the universe. 3 trillion neutrinos, and the material information they carry pass through every square inch of our planet and us every second. Our sun, which is the closest star to Earth, produces about 70% of all the neutrino that travel through our solar system. The remaining 30% are emitted by other stars in OU Milky Way galaxy, and a small percentage are from the planet Jupiter. Neutrinos could be regarded as the modern equivalent of what the ancients called chi, or prana. These extraordinary particles are penetrating us with bits of information all the time, which mean we live and move through a vast, continuous, and inescapable information field. Crystals of consciousness. The incredibly detailed scientific information received from the voice about the nature of the cosmos placed the Big Bang acknowledged by physicists as the accepted beginning of the expansion of the known universe into a larger context. The voice described the Big Bang as merely the conception of the universe, not its birth. That means our entire universe is one single living entity, a fetus not yet born, still expanding and moving toward its moment of birth. In the beginning, said the voice, there was a yin egg, a cosmic egg containing all of the atomic material of the universe. This egg structure is best described as crystalline. While not a crystal per se, the term helps us visualize it. There was also a yang seed that contained another crystal-like structure. When the yin egg and the yang seed came together at the Big Bang, there was a shattering and an infinite number of crystalline aspects spread throughout the expanding universe, each aspect bearing a consciousness of its original yin-yang orientation. Everything that we can imagine and all forms of life on this planet, even inanimate objects, are endowed with these crystals of consciousness. We will explain in part 2 of this section how the crystals get embedded into the body. In a human being, the personality crystal of consciousness, an aspect of the original yang seed, sits above your head, just above the scalp, in the head center at the top of the body graph. This personality crystal manifests what you identify with as yourself, or who you think you are, and is called the passenger or passenger consciousness. The design crystal of consciousness, an aspect of the original yin egg, and manifests the biogenetics of your body, or the physicality of the form. It is referred to as the vehicle or form consciousness. The relationship between these two crystals is likened to a backseat passenger personality who rides in a vehicle designed, operated, and navigated by a third party, the driver. The magnetic monopole, the second prediction fulfilled. The driver of the vehicle, the magnetic monopole, is the third key component described by the voice. On September 4, 2009, the voice's second prediction was substantiated when the scientific community announced that it had observed the existence of magnetic monopoles. Briefly, monopoles are particles that carry a single magnetic attraction, either a north or a south pole. They had eluded detection since the search for them began in the early 1920s. According to the voice, our magnetic monopole is located in the sternum area known as the G-center and has two different functions. First, it holds us and everything together in the illusion of our separateness. As a monopole or a magnet that only attracts, it holds the personality crystal and the design crystal together in a relationship, much like a marriage holds two people together in a mystical union. The second function of the magnetic monopole is to connect us to our movement in time through space, guiding us along our path or our geometry in life, what we call destiny. This connection can be likened to the way the arm of a streetcar hooks up to an electrically powered grid. All life forms are endowed with a magnetic monopole. Three components of the navigation system: design crystal, the vehicle, magnetic monopole, the driver and personality crystal 711, the passenger. The wheel who knows exactly how to operate the vehicle, where to go, and how to get there. Returning to the analogy of vehicle, passenger, and driver, imagine a limousine with a driver behind vehicle represents the design crystal, and the driver is the magnetic monopole. The personality crystal, or who we think we are, is neither the vehicle nor the driver. The personality crystal has no idea where to go or how to get there. It is simply the passenger. A passenger is meant to be quiet and relaxed, and to watch the scenery go by instead of fighting with the driver for control of the steering wheel. The human design system's tools for living make the passenger comfortable in the backseat of the vehicle so it can sit back and enjoy the ride. With the discovery of the planet Uranus by Herschel in 1781, we moved into the Uranian era when human beings with highly evolved nine-centered forms began replacing the seven-centered, mind-oriented Homo sapiens. By the late 1800s, the process was complete, making all of us alive today nine-centered beings, or Homo sapiens in transitus, a term coined by Ra Uru to distinguish nine-centered beings, an interregnum species, from Homo sapiens and the new, more highly evolved forms coming in 2027. This historically significant moment in our evolution marked the movement away from our need to focus on survival through the mental awareness or mental intelligence of the strategic mind. Our newer nine-centered forms, freed from addressing those basic fears for survival, are once again attuning to the flow of the natural order. Subtle yet marked genetic changes are still taking place within our physiology, which support complex neurological advances within the solar plexus center, in preparation for its emergence as the center of spirit awareness in 2027. The solar plexus center is discussed fully in Section 2. For the purposes of this book, understanding Homo sapiens' lengthy evolutionary journey compared to our barely 230-year presence on this planet as Homo sapiens and transitus gives us a perspective on the pervasive impact that living in these transitory times as an interregnum species has on us. It affects how we make decisions, relate to one another, break away from the controlling modes of the past, and attain our full potential as conscious, awake, and aware beings. Briefly, anthropologists speculate that five-centered Neanderthal hominids, who relied on instinctive splenic intelligence and their keen senses to survive, were animistic and deeply connected to and influenced by the forces of, or gods of nature. They lived as small family groups in harmony with the solar-lunar cycles of the natural order and appear to have been peaceful and non-aggressive. As the mutation took place over thousands of years, the stage was set for the evolution of modern man for seven-centered Homo sapiens, our precursors. Their progress was greatly enhanced beginning 85,000 years ago, when the larynx mutated, increasing space in the cranium for neurological advances in the neocortex and visual cortex, which further delineate the characteristic raised foreheads and binocular vision common to our species. Existential, instinctual, and instantaneous splenic awareness was soon overshadowed by mental awareness, which found expression through the voice. This metamorphosis continued to distinguish humans from the rest of the mammalian kingdom. Being able to make and systematize a variety of repeatable sounds led to language. The unique ability to communicate and share intelligence opened the way for cooperation, specialization, and eventually organization into villages. All of these evolving traits ensured new levels of personal and group mastery as part of Homo sapiens' thriving existence. With Cro-Magnon man, the emphasis shifted from survival of the form and living attuned to the natural flow, to focusing on and revering the powers of the strategic mind that dominated the natural flow. This is how Homo sapiens made it to the top of the food chain. Shrewd and inventive strategic thinking replaced fears for survival with strategies formulated to control the environment, and eventually the people in it. As a species, Homo sapiens were conditioned to look to forces beyond themselves for authority, such as gods, priests, and kings, to guide, rescue, and support them, as well as to justify their often aggressive conquests. By 1781, the remarkable strategic mind had succeeded in taking the seven-centered form to its zenith of human potential. The seven-centered Homo sapiens had a shorter life expectancy marked by the Saturnian cycle. Our new nine-centered forms have an 84-year life expectancy marked by the Uranian cycle. We need to live longer in order to process and integrate increasing amounts of information and to develop technologies that will be needed in the future. Driven by the genetic imperative to reproduce, seven-centered being found communion through sexuality. The nine-centered being is here to find communion through awareness. The ways we communicate and the shape our relating relationships will take are an intrinsic part of the transition to living completely as nine-centered beings. By 1987, as the entire planet was flooded with the potential for heightened awareness, the stage was already set, and the tension elevated between our body's consciousness and mind's domination. The moment was ripe for the human design system and practical way of addressing this dilemma. The bottom line is that our now highly evolved nine-centered forms, our vehicles, are designed to guide us through life decision by decision. No longer need to look to an outer authority through our mind for direction. Strategic mind in its determination to retain its former control of our decision-making process. Through type, strategy, and authority, the human design system bridged the evolutionary progression from the mental outer authority of the seven-centered being, revolutionary, aurically connected, personal authority of the nine-centered form. The Rave Mandala, a synthesis of four ancient esoteric systems with modern science. At its center is the 64-gate matrix of a human being, the Rave body graph, the single most important feature within the human design system. The synthesis is comprised of four ancient esoteric systems or early sciences, four distinct ways of understanding the rhythm and flow of life, the cosmos, and humanity's essential place within it. Western astrology and the Chinese I Ching form the outer rings of the mandala, while the Hindu Brahmin chakra system and the Zohar or Kabbalist tree of life form the foundation for the body graph centered within. Altogether, they form the basis of a new, multifaceted, and deeply complex system, providing us with a comprehensive means of understanding the mystery of life and the mechanics of the universe, the human design system. Each of the four ancient systems, plus the role neutrinos and the magnetic monopole play in bringing the mandala to life, will be discussed individually to demonstrate their relationship to each other and their function within the synthesis. The synergy of this whole makes it much greater than the sum of its many parts. Human design is a mirror of our age of globalization and synthesis. There lurks real danger in clinging to relative absolutes, as this is the force that continues to condition us away from accepting our oneness. Human design is not about seeing or accepting that there is one specific way. The way is all ways. Synthesis embraces all of the collected wisdom of these cultures and their systems, and it does not dismiss or lessen the value of the knowledge and wisdom derived from these earlier systems. It brings them all together into their global body, into their proper place where their contributions can be properly recognized and honored. Each culture in its evolution has explored and discovered aspects of the truth. The synthesis of these diverse aspects creates a complete body of knowledge and, as demonstrated by the law of mathematics, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. Astrology, the inner ring of the mandala. The inner ring of the mandala represents astrology's contribution to the synthesis. The 360-degree circle, with its 12 signs of the Western zodiac, Aries, Taurus, Gemini, etc., is the way early human beings represented the universe and tracked the movement in the night sky. The human design system uses the mandala to calculate and record two precise moments in time and space within the synthesis. The first, based on the exact time of your birth, is recorded as the personality data. The second, which is 88 degrees of solar arc or 3 months prior to your birth, is recorded as the design data. The use of two calculations distinguishes the human design system from traditional astrology. The calculation of data is discussed in more detail in Part 3 of this section. We are surrounded by an enormous star field which generates the neutrino stream that is constantly penetrating and informing the objects it passes through. A kind of communication occurs during the encounter when the neutrino's infinitesimal mass interacts with or rubs against the object on its way through. For example, when the neutrino stream goes through Mars, it communicates with Mars and an exchange takes place. After being filtered by Mars, the stream passes through humans and there is another exchange. It's as if a black car and a white car bang into each other, and there is now a little black paint on the white car and a little white paint on the black car. Each car is altered by the encounter just as we are altered by this neutrino interaction. In this way, each planet contributes its essence to the way we are imprinted with the neutrino stream. Even though we all exist in the same neutrino program, the unique way we manifest that program is determined by the precise moment of our birth and the two calculations discussed. The outer ring of the mandala. The information contained in the human design mandala is extraordinary and its symmetries are beautiful. The hexagrams around the wheel have an association directly aligned with our genetic code, the codon. The way in which the amino acid codon infrastructure of a human being operates is through specific imprints. If you go down into the nucleus within the construct of the cell itself, down into its DNA, you find that everything is there, all the fundamental components of a human being. This is true whether it's a blood cell or a muscle cell. Ra-Uru-Hu. DNA, 64 codons. 6 groups of amino acids per codon. The I Ching 64 hexagrams. 6 lines per hexagrams. I Ching, or Book of Changes, one of the first books ever written, reads like a dictionary of archetypal wisdom on the seasons of life. What makes the I Ching so extraordinary in this synthesis, however, is not its philosophical or ethical text, but rather the amazing mathematical structure of its 64 hexagrams. Specifically, the 64 numbered sections you see in the outer ring of the mandala represent the 64 hexagrams of the I Ching. Each of these hexagrams, pictured around the outside of the wheel, is made up of a particular combination of 6 broken yin, or solid yang lines. There are 64 hexagrams, each composed of 6 lines, which makes a total of 384 line markers around this outer ring. Each line contains a bit of information specific to its particular position in the hexagram. In the 1950s, biologists Watson and Crick cracked the genetic code, and it was later observed that DNA codons and the hexagrams of the I Ching share identical binary structures. Our genetic code consists of 4 chemical bases arranged in groups of 3s, which is similar in organization to the lower and upper trigrams of the hexagrams of the I Ching. Each of the chemical groupings relates to an amino acid and forms what is known as a codon. There are 64 codons in our genetic code, as there are 64 hexagrams in the I Ching. The 64 hexagrams around the outer wheel, translated the body graph as gates, can be used in human design to thematically understand or interpret our genetic imprint, and provide very specific detail about the characteristics that make up each and every one of us. The relationship between hexagrams, gates, and degrees. Generally speaking, the inner ring of the mandala is used for calculation and the outer for interpretation. This illustration shows that every hexagram, with its corresponding gate, has a specific place and measurement of arc in the outer ring. In order to determine its place, we need to understand, again, that the 64 hexagrams, each with 6 lines, have a total of 384 lines, while each of the 12 houses of the zodiac encompasses 30 degrees, for a total 360 degrees. When the 384 line demarcations, visible around the outer ring, are measured by or aligned with the 360 degrees of the inner ring, we can see that each hexagram covers the space-time of 5 degrees, 37 minutes, and 30 seconds of arc. This arc is an imprinting field, a place in space. When a planet passes through it, information is exchanged via the neutrino stream. When we are born, we are imprinted with the qualities of a specific hexagram for each specific planet, or node of the moon, in the chart. The information carried by the neutrino stream at that precise moment imprints us in this specific way for the rest of our life. The moment is captured and instantaneously recorded in our body graph as our definition, our blueprint. In the illustration above, we have an example of the calculation used. When we know the position of the planet's location in the inner astrological ring, we can see its correspondence to the hexagram in the outer ring. The example above has the Sun positioned in the zodiacal constellation of Aquarius, which aligns it with a corresponding division in the I Ching wheel in the 13th hexagram. This information is then transferred into the body graph. We will explore the body graph in more detail later in this section. The Hindu Brahmin chakra system, the 9 centers. The Hindu Brahmin chakra system is the 3rd component of the synthesis, bringing 9 centers. One major difference between the traditional chakra system and the 9 centers body graph illustrated below is simply that there are 7 chakras and 9 centers. This difference reflects the cosmic shift that occurred in 1781, signaling an evolutionary progression within OU species from 7-centered beings to 9-centered beings. This process involved a complex internal reorganization of the form, not simply an addition of 2 more energy centers. Each of the 9 centers is an energy hub with its own distinct biological correlations. The Kabbalah, the Tree of Life, the 36 channels and 64 gates, the Tree of Life from the Zohar Kabbalistic tradition, is the 4th component of the synthesis. It makes its contribution as the pathways energetically connecting the centers through the gates. These pathways, called channels, create a living circuitry that unifies the body graph and directs the flow of energy within it. At either end of each channel, where the channel opens into a center, you will see a number indicating a particular gate. The 64 gates correlate to the 64 hexagrams of the outer ring of the mandala, allowing us to transfer the information from the hexagrams directly into the body graph. Single gates are the way energy enters and exits a center. They are open to meeting the energy at the other end of the pathway. It takes definition in both gates at opposite ends of the pathway to complete or define a channel. As individuals, we can have both gates defined ourselves, and thus define the channel, or we can have only one gate defined, and meet others who complete the channel for us. As an example, when a person has a gate at one end of a channel, they are attracted to a person who has the gate at the other end of the channel. Their coming together completes or energetically connects them through the newly completed channel. This 3rd dynamic in their lives is experienced as an electromagnetic connection. It feels like a spark of attraction. This is one of the many ways in which we are designed to meet and interact with other people in our life. Basically, the channels connect the energies of 2 different centers, thus generating something new described as a quantum. Each channel has its own characteristics and keynote, but remains a flexible or dynamic quantum of the energy of the 2 gates, 12 lines and 2 centers it brings together. Defined or colored-in channels become a dominant feature in a person's life, and we call this definition your life force. The human design body graph, the map to navigate by. What makes human design so extraordinary is the body graph. The body graph has never existed before. Yes, obviously there have been graphic illustrations of bodies and systems, but there has never been anything like the body graph in the center of the mandala. The body graph is unique. First of all, it is based on an entirely new numerical configuration. This is not a 7-center chakra system. This is a 9-centered being. The way in which the information is drawn together has derivatives in other systems. The body graph is the real synthetic field. Conception marks the moment when a design crystal, along with its embedded magnetic monopole, enters the ovum through the process of fertilization. As the design crystal begins receiving the streaming neutrino information, it separates from the magnetic monopole and initiates the building of the fetus. The fetus will continue to develop until the end of the 2nd trimester of pregnancy, when the neocortex, the special brain faculty unique to humans, is fully formed. At this point, the magnetic monopole sends out a signal which brings the personality crystal, also called the soul or psyche, into the body. The moment of birth, which occurs approximately 3 months later, marks the moment the personality. The baby has left the womb and is starting outside the mother's body, and not the time when the umbilical cord is cut. Human design illustrates our uniqueness in precise detail, and it is very important, therefore, to begin analysis with accurate birth data, especially birth time. If you are unsure about your birth time, please check with the organization that records births in your country's state of birth. If you have no way of acquiring an accurate birth time, you can hire an astrologer who specializes in what is called chart rectification. The astrologer will take you through a process to determine your birth time as precisely as possible. The body graph. 2 calculations are needed to generate a body graph. We begin with the date, place, and exact of each person's birth to establish the personality or natal calculation. Since both calculations are based on the moment of your birth, it does not matter whether you were a full-term baby, premature, or delivered by cesarean section. The 2 sets of calculations are recorded on your chart as the design column in red and the personality column in black. The gate numbers indicate which hexagrams have been activated, and the symbols indicate which planet was in the neutrino stream of that hexagram. The gate numbers are also recorded in the centers within the body graph. The locations of the gates in the body graph do not change. They are always in the same place for everyone. What does change is which specific gates are activated by the planets at the moment of each calculation. The significance of the red and black. The personality and design can be viewed as separate charts. The red and black sets of information are both part of your design, but represent aspects that are accessed differently by you. The personality information in black is what you have conscious access to. You know these things about yourself, and you can work with this information. This is who you think you are, the you with whom you identify. Having this conscious access is like sitting on a hill overlooking a highway. You can see the road, the traffic on the road, the direction they are going, and you can wave at the people as they go by. In other words, you are a fully participating observer. The design information in red is one of the most important advances introduced by the human design system. It shows you the nature of your unconscious, what is going on below your level of consciousness. It also represents your of. Genetic inheritance, or your bloodline, as a theme from your mother and father and grandparents. You cannot consciously access the information in red. It is like looking at a tunnel. You have no idea what is going on inside the tunnel because you can't see the objects or which way they are moving. There is nothing you can do but wait and see what emerges. In other words, what comes out of your mouth can be as much of a surprise to you as it is to others. Even though with age, experience, and the proper reflection you learn to know the unconscious part of yourself, it is important to remember you can never control it. Gates and/or channels colored in with red and black stripes on a chart indicate that there are multiple planetary activations in that gate or channel in both your personality and design. Those activations function both consciously and unconsciously in your experience of life. Personality is who you think you are. The design is how you are genetically programmed to move through time and space. These 2 completely different aspects merge into the body graph and are held together by the magnetic monopole as an integrated field, a mystical union. It can also be likened to a forced marriage because the 2 aren't naturally compatible. The personality thinks it's in charge of the life, while in fact it's the design and the magnetic monopole that actually are. Most of the conflicts that arise and the resistance you meet in life stem from the personality trying to manage your life rather than assuming its proper role, which is to sit in the back seat and enjoy the ride. The personality is not aware of the design's existence, which is why consciously knowing how to access your form's intelligence through your strategy and authority is so important, and a major focus of this book. When the personality passenger is surrendered to its strategy and authority, the personality and design can live in harmony, in union, as they individually perform their intended roles. This is when you find your path, and when the foundation for all love emerges, the love of self. Without self-love inside, there is no love for others. With self-love inside, you will know who is right for you on the outside. Definition in a body graph. As the activated gates from both the design and personality columns are added, colored in, on the body graph, channels are formed and centers are defined. Specifically, when the two gates at bow ends of a channel are activated by a planet, they form a defined channel and are colored in on the body graph. When a channel is defined, the centers at either end are defined or colored in as well. This is called definition in a chart. Definition creates what is called our life force. Definition is the core of our being, a potential that we grow into as we fully inhabit our nine-centered vehicles by living authentically. This is the self we know deep inside, and the unique life force frequency we project aurically into the world from birth. Our body graph confirms this, and the human design system encourages us to live it. Definition tells our story. The science of differentiation's complex and revolutionary perspectives required the creation of a new language to communicate that story. Ra called it keynoting. Keynotes form a living symbolic language, the language of human design. They are a means by which a great deal of information is referenced or compressed into a single word or phrase. Almost every aspect of the system has its own keynote associated with it. Like a mantra, keynotes invoke or awaken or connect us with our body's chemistry and our own unique frequency. Learning and using the language of keynotes is like thinking within the body's hormonal messaging system. It allows us to connect energetically with others. By stringing the keynotes of one's definition and open centers together, professional analysts create a word picture or storyline of a person's character and purpose. Once the keynotes are delivered, the story penetrates the person beyond the level of the mind. As an example, this definition tells us that this person will want to speak his mind and say what he is thinking. Channel 1156 is called the channel of curiosity, a design of a searcher or a seeker. The 11th gate is the gate of ideas, and the 56th gate is the gate of stimulation. It is his ideas that he wants to share. With this definition, he helps make every dinner party he attends a success, because he is willing to talk to anybody who will listen. He enjoys keeping everybody stimulated or engaged in his stories. Although he has a lot of ideas and often says he plans to do something with them, he rarely does. His ideas do not materialize. Knowing this about himself but not understanding it is a source of deep frustration for him. There is, however, a reason why he has this dilemma. His definition stops at the throat center, the center of communication. If the throat center were connected to one of the body's four motors or energy resources, heart, solar plexus, sacral, and root centers, which are discussed in more detail in section 2, then this person could turn communication into action. He could act on his ideas. In truth, this person is not meant to do anything himself with his ideas. Instead, he is to share them, and perhaps one day to verbally stimulate someone else into bringing his ideas into reality. Following his strategy of waiting until he is asked or invited to share his ideas will increase his chances of success. Defined and undefined form a binary, nature and nurture, one are senders and are receivers. When you are looking at the different activations in a chart, you are looking at the unique imprint of a person. We have receptors to everything. Everything that is white in the design is a receptor. The imprint is what makes you different. It isn't what makes you the same. What makes us the same is the whole map in its entirety. What makes us different is our individual imprint. This is the science of differentiation, and human design teaches us about our uniqueness, what it is to be uniquely ourselves within the totality. Definition is a fixed and dependable part of us that is to be embraced, expressed, and lived. It is consistent throughout our lifetime and therefore reliable. Definition establishes the parameters for who we are becoming, the potential we grow into over our lifetime. That which is not defined in a chart remains white, undefined. These parts are neither empty nor broken. They are a valuable and fully functioning part of us, but because they operate inconsistently, they are simply not a reliable basis for decision-making. Our openness is our living classroom and the ultimate source of the wisdom that we share with others. It is our openness that also determines which challenges or fear we will face, and what we are here to learn and to discover about ourselves and the world. Taken together, the defined and undefined portions of our chart form an interactive binary between what is fixed and what is flexible in our design. This is where nature, or who we are by definition, and nurture meet. People are inclined to think that definition is superior to lack of definition. The is not true. It is simply a duality, like day and night. Our definition is like a transmitter, a message or defining frequency that is sent out into the world through our aura. What we send out conditions others. Conversely, our undefined centers, gates, and channels are like receivers. Through our openness, we experience, reflect, mirror, and magnify the energies we take in from others. For good or bad, it is through our receivers that we are nurtured by and learn from our environment. Our openness is also where we are the most vulnerable to conditioning. Most people have a mixture of defined and undefined centers in their design. Rare exceptions do occur where a person will have all the centers in their chart either defined or open. The sun, moon, nodes, and planets in the body graph. You might call the sun, moon, nodes, and planets the local programming agents of our solar system. The locations of these celestial bodies at the time of our birth determines the way these influence or flavor how we experience our definition. Over the eons, each has taken on species mythological and thematic characteristics. Without the body graph, there is no possible analysis. The database within the body graph is made up of a total of 26 activations, 13 each from the design and the personality positions. According to the voice, no other objects in the heavens, other than the ones listed, can activate gates. As Titan, the great moon of Saturn that is larger than Mercury, it filters the neutrino stream, and like everything else adds its quality, but it does not activate a gate. And the comet fragment that was discovered in the late 1970s also does not activate or open a gate. If the thematic presumptions are correct, however, and this object is associated with healing wounding, then seeing where it is in the body graph can provide an insight. The same is true for the astrological ascendant, midheaven, Arabian points, etc., which do not activate gates either. Below is a list of the celestial bodies used in human design. In addition to flavoring how we experience our life, they also act as our teachers. Psychology. The following pages explain the sun, moon, nodes, and planets and their themes or keynotes. They also provide a short description of how they are used in the human design system. The sun, life force. The sun in our chart represents our core energy, our primary yang force. It is our self as well as what we do, and represents the theme of our incarnation. The sun represents the archetype of the father. 70% of the neutrinos that condition us are from the sun. Our personality sun is how we express our light in the world. Our design sun represents genetic themes we have inherited from our father. Earth, grounding, and balance. The earth represents where we concretize or bring into form, and how we ground and balance the sun's energy within our forms, our bodies. The sun and earth always operate together and are located opposite each other in the mandala. The earth provides the primary yin balance, the archetype of the mother. We find conscious balance when we are able to integrate the personality correctly in our life, and we find our stability or unconscious balance when we come to grips with the world of form. The earth is the backbone of our stability. Moon, driving force. The moon represents what moves us, the driving force in our design. The pull of the moon is a force that is powerful, always there, and always willing to embody the message of our sun's energy. The input comes from the sun, but the direction or force or drive is represented by the moon. The moon is the archetype of the eldest daughter and makes possible the task of the earth mother to drive and move the form, thus ensuring evolution. The moon is also the reflected light that others see in our inner nature brought to the surface and placed on display. North node of the moon. Future direction and environment. Although not planets, the node of the moon are equally powerful. On the personality side, the nodes are not who you are, but instead frame what your personality thinks about the world and itself. On the design side, the nodes frame your relationship to the environment and the people in it. The North Node is the mature stage of experiencing life and shifts from the South Node at our Uranus opposition, 38 to 43 years. Movement into the North Node signals a process of letting go of what no longer serves us and retaining what does. South Node of the Moon, past direction and environment. The South Node represents a developmental stage of experiencing life, our immaturity, until we arrive at our Uranus opposition. In our 9-centered Uranian bodies, our transition from the South Node to the North Node symbolize midlife and our entry into adulthood. The nodes represent the stage on which our lives are played out, how we perceive the world around us, and the environments that we will experience throughout our lives that will support us in living out our unique destiny. Mercury, communication and thinking. Mercury, the archetype of the eldest son, represent the expansion of human consciousness as well as the need within us to communicate. Mercury, closest to the sun and thus metaphorically has its ear. Mercury programs the personality crystal from the time it enters the body until birth. Where your personality Mercury is defined gives you insight into what you need to communicate in this life. Your design Mercury also has something to communicate, but we often do not know why we are telling something to someone when it expresses through our unconscious form. Venus, values. Venus establishes our values and represents our morals and the natural way for how we deal with each other and the world around us. Venus is the archetype of the young daughter, and also represents love and beauty. For you personally, Venus is the right and the wrong and your moral questions and issues. If you do not act with moral clarity, and if those around you do not act with moral clarity, Venus can be harsh in her retribution. The values that are established by Venus become laws in Jupiter, and any retribution takes place through Saturn. Mars, immature energy. Mars is the archetype of the youngest son, energetically immature and free of responsibility, passive until it gets rolling, and then a force to be reckoned with. Once ignited, Mars' capacity to build momentum can result in mindless outbursts where even the most basic inhibitions can be overwhelmed. Mars in your chart represents an extraordinary energy that when refined over time can settle into a powerful and mature wisdom about the correct use of energy. Mars plays a significant role in our personal transformation. For Jupiter, law and protection. Other than the sun, no object exerts greater influence over us. Jupiter is the logos for the universe and defines our outer development in 11+ year cycles, as well as our relationship to the other and the whole. We are each imprinted with a very focused theme of what is correct for us, our law as written by Jupiter. If you live by that law, you can gain great good fortune as Jupiter is very generous at times, but your ability to benefit from the generosity comes from deep obedience to your own law. Saturn discipline, the judge. Saturn is the place in your chart where you must deal with the consequences of your actions. A very ancient yin force, it represents the judge and the places in your life where you will pay for any incorrectness when not following your own laws and morals. Saturn is a profound signpost that allows you, over time, to see the taskmaster without praise. If Saturn is leaving you alone, this is a signpost that you are living correctly, progress in your process. Saturn isn't expectant, however. If you break your own rules, values, and laws, Saturn will punish you. Uranus, unusualness, chaos, and order. Where Uranus shows up in your design is where you express your unusualness. The evolutionary mutative undercurrent of Uranus allowed us to transform our understanding of the Maya and extend our lifespan to the current 84 years. Uranus also introduced us to the tripartite life process of subjective youth, objective midlife, and transcendent older age. Why Neptune illusion and spirituality. A great teacher who demands total acceptance. Neptune in any gate veils its potential. This veiling through the veil, and we lose the ability to see any limitations, which can lead to abuse. Surrender to can deeply disturb the not-self, as it is not possible to see Neptune. Leave it alone, and you allow the potential magic to emerge from behind the veil. You also learn a great deal about the nature of surrender. Pluto, truth and transformation. Pluto brings the forces of the subconscious to the surface. It represents rebirth. Pluto is the truth teller, bringing truths that are hidden to the surface for you to look at directly and squarely in the eye. Truth brings transformation. Wherever you see Pluto in your chart, this is your truth. Pluto's deepest lesson is to find the light within the darkness. The mystery of Pluto, the mystery of you, takes a lifetime to explore. Only the personality black calculation is used to create a transit connection chart. The neutrino planetary transit field, you can see where the transit field brings new activations to Joan for this moment in time, which is how it influences or informs her as it passes through her. By staying true to her strategy and authority, she can stay grounded in her own design and avoid being distracted from her course or by the people around her who have also been affected by the transit. A connection chart graphically illustrates the interplay between two people. We are also impacted and conditioned by those around us, especially those close to us. The three charts on the right demonstrate how a connection chart is created. John's definition is represented in blue and Mary's in green. Together, they create a quantum field that is greater than either one of them alone. New channels are defined and open centers are filled in. A great deal can be learned from the connection chart about how these two people interact with each other, how they unknowingly influence each other's actions and decisions, and what they project as a couple. The topic of connections is vast and requires a more thorough exploration. To understand a connection chart thoroughly, one needs to consider many things including type, strategy, authority, profile, definition, gates, lines, and centers, and it is recommended that a human design analyst be consulted. The following general information describes 4 ways people connect with each other energetically. Electromagnetic, this is where each partner defines one gate or one half of a channel in their body graph. Together, they define the whole channel, establishing a vital flow of energy between the two centers at either end of that channel. This connection represents the basic attraction-repulsion dynamic in relationships. Dominance, here one partner's entire channel, for example, channel 7 to 31, is defined while the other person's is completely open or undefined. With this configuration in place between them, the person with no definition can only experience their partner through acceptance and surrender to their partner's definition, which is fixed and consistent. Compromise, in this case one partner defines the whole channel and the other defines only a single gate in the channel. The partner that only has one gate of the channel activated is always compromised by the partner with the complete channel. Companionship, with this connection, both partners have the same channel or gate defined in their body graph. This commonality carries the greatest potential for friendship, for comfortably sharing the experience of life and living with each other. The synthesis of many systems reflected in your human design chart provides you with an extraordinary new view of your life and an understanding of the genetic continuity that flows between the seemingly separate aspects of your design. The combined interplay between your definition, the true self, and your openness, the not self, form the foundation for understanding the ways you will live out your design. Awareness of both who you are designed to be and where you are open to taking in the outside world allows you to have the fullest experience of life and to authentically live out your unique purpose as a part of a greater totality. Wisdom lies in the unattached experience, our openness. Ra'uruhu.